You're good. You're live.
We're going to go ahead and start the public hearing. David Sear doing business as AstroTurf Adult Use Marijuana Store License Renewal. Any comments from the public? Questions, concerns? Seeing none. Anything from the board, or we look to get to it? Close the public hearing. Call the Selectmen's meeting to order. Please start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Action on minutes.
Motion to accept the
Motion a second, any discussion? All those in favor? Vote. Adjustments to the agenda.
I have a couple of quick things. So if the board is interested in doing this, I received a phone call from Tom Kennison, our real estate agent, in regards to the sale of lot 13 from our small business park. We're moving forward with that, but the title attorney is asking for a more specific motion from the Board of Selectmen authorizing the town manager to sign all documents and execute the sale for lot 13. If somebody would be kind enough to make that motion, I will then provide that to them.
So second.
Discussion. So everybody knows this has already been acted on and approved, just a formality of whatever the attorney wanted. So,
Yep.
All those in favor? Vote.
Thank you. The second piece was potentially adding an executive session for personnel. That's still something you want to do, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Public comments? Nothing? June, welcome back.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you. I'm just here, I know it's on the agenda for tonight, but this is the right time to talk. Just to request the two ordinances to be added to the bill for June. One regarding moratorium on solar farms, and the second on panhandling or some sort of panhandling ordinance. So just wanted to, Adam's gonna be updating those tonight.
We will discuss that, and actually we made a copy of, the clerks made a copy of the handout.
I'll wait till then.
We'll provide with you, to you. Anybody else? Public comment? Business items, 5.1, review approves David Sear doing business as AstroTurf Adult Use Marijuana Store License Renewal.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion.
Any issues? No.
All in favor? Oh. 5.2, discuss proposed ordinance changes.
All right. Do you want me to kick off on that? Or?
Yep.
All
I'm
right.
gonna give one of those.
So at the last selectmen's meeting, we went over a handful of proposed ordinance changes, updates. One of the things that was brought to our attention was what was just mentioned, that was panhandling ordinance and a solar ordinance. The panhandling ordinance, the town attorney, I spoke to him because we've had some conversations in the past. And he expressed a handful of concerns, and you'll see this in your packets, a handful of concerns on the risks of panhandling ordinances. The courts have apparently seen panhandling ordinance as infringement on First Amendment speech because it's taking place in a public forum. And so I would encourage the board, it's actually quite extensive what he put together there. I would encourage the board to look at that before making a decision on whether or not to move forward. In the end, one of the things that was commented on in there is that if the person is, committing a crime, i.e. disorderly conduct or anything like that, that's something the police can address. So I'm not saying whether or not we should do this or not, I'm just saying those are the things that the attorney brought as a concern. Also, one of the other things that was discussed was the fact that some of this activity has been taking place either on a state road, which would be DOT that potentially would need to address it, and or on private property, like for instance, in front of one of, like say, Hannaford or something like that. And Hannaford can kick them out if that's the case. So you've got a copy of that too. So yeah, I just appreciate if everybody kind of gives that a read, and then maybe we can make a decision if you think we should go further. The second is solar ordinance. I put a copy of the moratorium that was in place back in 2004. I also received a quick note from the attorney on that as well. If you don't mind just taking one of those and pass it down. In short, for commercial stuff, there really isn't tax exemptions that exist anymore for like new builds if we wanted to restrict them. So there's not really any tax implications there. What he kind of talked about, which makes sense to me, is that what some municipalities are doing is if they have concerns of the solar fields, is one, they are considering limiting what zones that the solar panel, what zones the solar, fields can go into. Like, he threw out, you could limit it to industrial use only, or industrial zoning only if you wanted to, or only commercial, whatever the board wanted to propose. He also recommended that, or said that some towns, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, if we're going to allow an industrial zoning, it can only cover a maximum of, say, 3 or 4 acres. So that's how you start to put the guardrails on these things. One of the things he said that is also discussed in some towns is having a decommissioning plan. I believe the plan, our land use already has a decommissioning plan as part of the planning process. But one of the things that's being done to put teeth in there is to require the developer to provide a decommissioning bond so that there's money up front, so that if the company goes belly up or doesn't have the funds to do it when the time comes, it's something they would pay for it. So if we were going to go down that road, I think it's less about the tax implications and it's more about those 3 items there, if that's something that interests the board. Is that something we want to explore more, you think? Or?
Yeah, I think that was my concern, would be that maybe it would be restricted to commercial or industrial property. Where I have concern we're coming into a residential property and taking up several acres of an old pasture or what have you. Then it would obviously affect property values of the letting property owners. So I don't necessarily have a problem with solar. Put it in the right place.
Adam, isn't there something on how much they produced before they, like the problem we ran into down here beside the racetrack?
Right, but that legislature has changed those parameters,
No
so that's
longer.
no longer, yeah.
No longer free money. Okay.
They still get
If it's dated from,
exemptions, but going forward, unless they change the law again,
right,
a new one wouldn't get a tax exemption, which is why they're not coming to build a lot of new ones.
not a lot of free money in that case. So if the board is interested, what I'll do is I'll ask him for a sample ordinance proposal that encompasses like those 3 things. As far as maybe a maximum number of acres, do you think that's something that we want to talk about, or leave that out of the discussion, or just restrict it to say industrial, commercial only, or?
Yeah, I don't care about restricting the place next to the racetrack other than the tax implications is fine. I think,
Well, at the time, we didn't know that, but they did.
I mean, you want to put solar panels in an area that floods for 3 months out of the year, that's probably a good use for that area, but I'd hate to see it, again, I'm not picking on the hookers, I'm just saying somebody buy this farm and throw 11 acres of solar panels on those hills would be an absolute travesty.
Yeah.
So, and it does have, I mean, if they did that, I mean, you're killing some property values at the same time. So that was probably my biggest concern, not so much about the solar. Or put it in a commercial, industrial setting. So yeah, Adam, I'd be great with having the attorney draw up something like that, and definitely something to decommission.
Okay.
A bond would be, so we're not stuck with some junk solar panels.
I'm sure he's got templates already based on how he was talking, so I don't think that'll be a big ask. Does that sound good to the rest of you guys too?
I'm okay with it.
All right, so that was the two ordinances in addition to what we talked about before.
Five, three, review and award town fuel RFP.
All right, so this just came in a little bit earlier. So we had this posted for about 30 days and ended up getting both of these late. So everybody is on a late playing field. So I've made copies of what we received here for you guys. If you can take one and pass it on, please. Finance was kind enough to make a pretty chart here to show, but we received a bid from Dead River and one from C&N Brown. We broke it down by heating fuel types. For number two heating fuel, Dead River was $2.85.9 per gallon. C&N Brown was $2.52.9 per gallon. Propane was $1.4559 per gallon. C&N Brown was $1.6699 per gallon. Diesel fuel was $3.0243 per gallon. C&N Brown was $2.669 per gallon. K1 was $3.5445 per gallon. C&N Brown was $3.119. Dead River did not provide a bid price for gasoline. C&N Brown did a bid price of 25 cents above rack price. And that's what they did last year for their bid as well. And just as an example, the last time we purchased gasoline, we paid $2.34 a gallon for it. So if you go on our projected usage, we're looking at, I excluded gasoline from this. I only did the other fuels just based on, because Dead River didn't even provide us a price for the gas. So based on number two, propane, diesel, and K1, if we go with Dead River based on these prices and our projected uses, we'd be looking at $87,195 in fuel. With C&N Brown, with these projected, we'd look at $81,457.40. So it's a little bit less expensive with C&N Brown, and that is who we're currently with. We have run into a couple of bumps in the road with automatic deliveries, but when we've called and talked to them, they've made it right. And I think overall it's been all right. So I asked the board to consider if one they'd like to award it to.
You make a motion to award C&N Brown $81,457.40.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. We put it out all this one. We couldn't get the propane separate from, or any of the fuels separate from each other. Is that how they, looks like that's how they bid them? That's how we put it out?
Yeah, so the way that we put it out is that they have the option, just like, Dead River not wanting to bid on the gasoline. They can just bid on one fuel or all of them if they want to. So.
Does he want it? Oh, okay, I don't know if he wants it.
He's got it.
So who has our, where do we have propane tanks that don't belong to us?
We pretty much weeded all of those out over this
All,
last
each of
year.
the town owns all the propane tanks.
Yep.
So we're not tied into any, one dealer?
The big monster was the one here, but now we've got that taken care of. So, in fact, estimating prices, we're going to save a few $1,000s in heating costs here this year with that.
So I guess my confusion is, or my question is, can we award the propane bid to Dead River and everything else to C&N Brown, or is that how we bid it out? Because the propane is cheaper through Dead River by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. You can. The board can, if you want to. Traditionally, we've always rewarded it to one bidder. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I know that,
I mean, that's what we're going out to bid, to get our best bang for our buck, and it's, again, an $80,000 price tag, we're gonna save $3,000 almost.
yeah, so I mean, as it says on it, please bid on the following fuels which your company can provide. So they are to, and in Dead River's case, they didn't want to provide gasoline, so they didn't. That's why I invited them out.
We amend that motion to approve these individually.
Well, there's a motion and a second on the floor, right?
Yeah.
So you could either amend the motion or vote it down.
How would Madam Clerk like us to word this?
If you're going to move forward, I would have Selectman Thayer amend his motion to award CM Brown excluding the propane. And then take up the propane separately.
If he so chooses to do.
I didn't know, I thought we had to bid it out as a whole thing when we made that.
Well, I wasn't sure, that's why I asked.
Good. Yeah, I could make a motion that we give CM Brown and give the propane, give Dead River the propane.
Do I have a second?
One second.
Any further discussion?
I'll just say, it wouldn't surprise me if CM Brown comes back and just says, hey, I kind of did that as a package because we put it that way. Doesn't mean we have, just be prepared for that.
As many times as we've had to deal with them on their automatic delivery, those are might be with them. So, but even on Sam Brown's bid, section B, please bid on the following fuels which your company can provide. Doesn't say, this is my price if you accept all of them. That's what I was looking for, actually, when we first started.
All in favor? So. All right. 5-4 is what we're gonna go into an executive session for, so department head. Sue Thomas.
Yeah, Shane was gonna give us a quick rundown on some updates from the code office. I did want to say before he gets started, just as an FYI. So Shane took the code officer position back in 10/15 of 2025 and was given some deadlines on getting some certifications, his LPI and his code enforcement certification as well. He's already accomplished those things well ahead of the deadline. So I sincerely congratulate him on getting that done, and I appreciate the drive that you've had since you've been here. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good job.
Thank you.
If you want to hit on your stuff, that'd be great.
All right, so a few things on the code enforcement radar. I met with Adam the other day. We decided to prioritize some of the rezoning things. One of which was the industrial zoning over in the part of town. So imagine East Oxford, Whittemore, and Station Road being the epicenter of this spot industrial zoning. We're working on reversing that, changing that to mixed use. I have a counterpart of that part that I've been working with. There's approximately 70. So there's 22 properties that are currently zoned industrial. The vast majority of those are residential that are inside that zone. And then there's an additional 50 that abut that. So there's 70 plus letters that are gonna have to go out when we move forward with planning board public hearing. With respect to the, I know this has been a hot topic, the LD 1829, and it was one other piece of legislation. So currently, those LD 1829 is currently in a fixed session for legislation. Based on our form of town government, we don't have to be in compliance with this until 2027. As opposed to a council style like McKenna Falls, they had to be in compliance this year. I passed out some information for you guys on that, regarding those legislation pieces. The information is dated. I was given that back in October. I'm hoping that with the, fix-it pieces settled, updates, if there are any, we'll come back but as of now, I haven't seen any. If you'd like, there's a 3-page that's taken together. I can go over the bullet points real quick. I know there's been a lot of questions about it. If anybody wants, I could just touch on them.
I'm interested.
So these are the key highlights of LD 1829. 1829 will have the biggest impact on our zoning ordinances. They're not going to affect shoreland, probably not at all, because shoreland is its own separate animal. But it will have a significant impact on our zoning ordinances. So the first bullet is fire sprinkler exemptions. So ADUs will no longer be required to have them if they're 3 or more dwelling units or less. I'm not sure if that's a code currently. I know some towns require sprinkler systems in a residential house. I believe Brewery is one of them. So this would probably impact them more than it would us. Units allowed per lot. So this is where it's gonna lessen the density requirement standard so that you can put more houses on a lot. It's also gonna lessen the square footage of a lot from currently 15,000 square feet in the village to 5,000. And that 5,000 possibly means everywhere. So there's 3 different lot requirements, 15,000, 40, and 80. That's going to be reduced drastically to allow for more people to build more homes, basically. So the simplified project review, in a nutshell, 4 or more, so 4 or fewer units, they've streamlined the process to avoid the planning board. So just based on that, a subdivision now requires, it's 3 or more, requires a subdivision. Now it's gonna be 4. If this goes into effect, the way it's worded, it'll be 4 or less will require those hurdles as far as the planning board aspect of it.
So you're saying that you wouldn't have to even go to the planning board?
That's the way it's been explained to me. That could be one of the things that change. That's kind of been a hot topic in the CEO kind of world. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions. The full language to a lot of these hasn't come out yet. So I'll be the first to know, and then you'll be the first to know. We're gonna learn together because there's a lot that's gonna change. Support for ADUs and non-conforming lots. So this one to me is kind of an enigma. ADUs must be allowed on non-conforming lots as long as their new structure doesn't worsen existing issues. That's kind of cut and dry. The interesting part is the second part of this. The municipalities may not require owner occupancy of an ADU. So currently in the town of Oxford, based on the ordinance, if Phil decides to build an ADU next to his house, the zoning ordinance states that he has to maintain ownership of that structure. This will take away that requirement. So maybe Colleen, when she comes back, she can answer that from an assessor's point of view better than I can. I don't know how you can do that without that creating a slew of other problems.
It'd be no different than just owning they'd be assessed for their building, I would assume, and the other would be assessed for the land that it sits on, like a mobile home. Except to be a
But for
permanent.
it's a permanent structure, if there's ever a change of ownership, how would that work? They don't own the land, they only own the building. So does that strip rights from the landowner who owns the primary structure?
I mean, it wouldn't, sounds like condominium type stuff to me, but, yeah.
Height bonus for affordable housing, that's pretty self-explanatory. The municipal official training requirement. So this legislation does require the planning board to maintain so many hours of training. We don't know to what extent yet. That'll all come out when we flesh it all out in legislation. And municipalities may not impose development caps in state designated growth areas. So part of the comprehensive plan is that we have to designate growth areas in town. And we have to be very careful as far as what sort of caps we put on that. Because once the state has made the say, the town can always add to the standard, it just can't take away from it. So that's just something that we're gonna have to look at. I've been working with Erica Buffkins at AvCog. She's gonna work with us on all these changes. And it's, after talking to Adam, we decided to tackle the zoning issue for this year. Hopefully that the zoning issue that I initially spoke about, we can get it before the select board, the planning board, public meeting, and then vote on it once it's been written and tailored to meet the changes, and vote on it for town meeting. And then in the fall, next winter, we'll start working on ordinance changes that will be impacted by the new legislation. And hopefully some of those will benefit us as far as making any required changes we need as far as the comprehensive plan as well. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where we're at. I haven't been exposed to a lot of this yet, so I'm kind of learning as I go. It's been interesting, it's been a challenge. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's a good question. I just read it quickly, but I don't see anything that tells any of us what size what are the requirements on the size of the house or whatever you're building.
So right now, there's the only size requirements that are specified are ADUs and tiny homes.
Right.
And I've heard that may be changing as well, but I haven't seen anything concrete.
Because that's what to me, that's what this is headed towards.
It does seem like it targets ADUs and tiny homes. And I think, it does. It's clear that it does.
States and questions of the board? Thank you, Shane. Town manager updates.
Just a couple of quick things. So I've consulted with those on the budget committee, and it is confirmed we are landing at 5:30. So it'll be Tuesday evenings at 5:30 is when the budget committee will meet in this room. The updated budget calendar is attached for all of you in your packets. And then town meeting, we heard back from the school system, Oxford Elementary School, 79 Pleasant Street, June 6th, 10 a.m. will be town meeting. What's that?
Let's go.
So, there you go. So I'll leave it at that. Yes.
Selectmen items.
Foreclosures, where are we on foreclosures? Do we have a total that have gone to, and I know some have made some efforts, just kind of an update on that.
Sure. So we've been talking to real estate agent and working towards those. We did have we're having some of the foreclosures reviewed just to make sure that we meet all the legalese of some of those, just because we went through a couple of different town clerks through some of that process. I think we're coming to the tail end of that at this point. Would you agree, the reviews? And as soon as we get that done, we're gonna get them listed. So the ones that we've already talked about in here, the mobile homes, which I think is probably what you're driving at mostly,
No,
or
I'm just curious where we were, I can't remember what we had for a number, was it like 27?
I think we had like 22.
So the new ones,
Yeah,
you're
go ahead.
referring to the new ones, so, their date for payment, before automatic foreclosure, last day is Monday.
Okay.
So,
you had several pay.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm.
quite a few from the mobile home list are paid. The majority, remaining are not the mobile homes. So I didn't get the number, I just did the check before I came in.
That's good though.
I'll get you an email on Monday or Tuesday morning, because they have to close the business on Monday.
The employee handbook, we've talked about that a couple times now. Can we get that, can we get that on the agenda to review that?
Sure. When do you wanna see that?
After budget? I mean, does that make sense? Give us a little bit of breathing room. Did we, where are we on, we were gonna try and get some pricing on the survey and the wetland survey and the property line survey for the Route 26 lot. Have we gone anywhere with that?
So Rob Prue did some research and actually delivered to me this morning, and doing a deep dive at the registry. He found a survey that had already been done prior to when Schiavi owned it. There's very few pieces that were split off. He thought that would be relevant enough. Rather than pay for a whole new survey, he thought that was, gonna be good. So now he's moving forward with the other pieces. He just gave me an update this morning. So,
Great.
Yep. So it's all in the way. Yep.
That's it.
Could you refresh my memory where we were a few years ago when we, was there a discussion or a vote about how many marijuana shops we were gonna allow in, cannabis shops allow into town?
When we first passed the recreational use, the town voted to not limit the number.
So I guess my thought is this, now that I feel personally we have plenty in town, is temperature of the board as far as looking at putting a cap on it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the board can't cap it. We'd have to go to town meeting.
That's what I mean, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you could, yes, we could take that to town meeting if you wanted to amend the marijuana ordinance. And you could simply, whatever that cap is, let's say we've got, 10 of them and you want to limit it to 10, then we could put that cap in place if town meeting was agreeable. The only thing I would caution is that if you want that number to be less than what we have now, is that you would grandfather the ones that were there, and then through attrition, you would allow it to dwindle down as they go out.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt any current business, that definitely is my intent, but I personally, my opinion is that we're talking about developing and bringing condos or whatever, more housing to the area. I just feel as though personally we have enough in town.
So can we put that on the very next agenda for the board to discuss and vote? I'm assuming you want the board to vote, but we're going to put it on the town meeting.
Well, we ought to work on the word.
Cannabis ordinance has already been voted to put on them.
Right, but they're putting a cap on, they'll.
I just
Real
meant
quick.
that
Well,
the
I've
ordinance
asked about this in the past.
to adjust the
just
cannabis
to
ordinance is
share
already
the
gonna be
information I
on.
was given
They already did that.
Was
So they may
I
not have to
break
vote to do that
down
again, right?
the types
for them
of
to say what
stores,
they want
so
the cap
some are
to be.
considered,
Oh, well, no, but I mean,
home-based,
so they can have
whatever,
the
you break
discussion,
down
more
as there's
discussion
all these
about
subsets.
how we're changing the
And
ordinance.
then,
But they don't need to
well,
vote to
last
move it
time
again,
I
right?
wanted
No,
to
I
do
don't
this,
think
I was
so.
told by signatures, you have to have the ordinance written up, and you need it written up very specifically before you can ask for voters to sign on, get your signatures, and then request for it to get on the warrant. But I think if you guys are running this show, then it just goes a little quicker because you can have your attorney write it up according to what the standards are. But I think you would have a tremendous amount of support from the community if you would do that.
That's the feedback I'm getting, and yeah.
Because the planning board is unable to deny new applications.
Right. Yep.
The way it's written, so.
I hear you. Thank you for that.
So on the next selectmen's meeting, I'll have that in front of you so you guys can discuss maybe what you want that cap to be and so forth. So,
You can have all the numbers too, the number of recreational sales, the number of
Yep.
grows. I don't think it's gonna touch the medical.
so have a current list of the current businesses and what they're licensed as.
We'll move on. Sign warrants.
Oh, my other thing. Oh, there's the other one. I just need them to sign that one.
Maybe I'll start this one at the other end and then you can end up back.
Before they all leave, will you remind us about their iPads? Yep, you remember to ask them about that before they all leave so I can get them set up.
You want to just ask them now with their signs?
Sure.
I don't think they can.
The issue with the website was fixed this afternoon, so if you all would like to leave your iPads, if you brought them before you leave this evening, unless you're gonna need them over the weekend, I will get them set up and ready for you, and then I'll let you know, and you can swing through whenever it's good for you next week to pick them up. It was not mine. I was so excited.
Relayed that it was
Hmm?
relayed that it was a website issue.
I even did a little dance.
You did.
It's probably the one that little box doesn't check it off or something.
Oh, yeah. Some of that stuff makes me lose my mind.
Hmm?
IT stuff.
I think.
No, that wasn't.
I don't know.
Can't see what it is. Loosen that. Did you?
I probably should have separated them. So everyone could review it. I didn't get that, but that's all right. She'll fix it for me.
Idea. I know. Very nice.
2 weeks.
Oh, it's a long I mean, peaceful ones working out of there.
So great.
Dogs.
They go in the window and it was just. Or if you set up.
Send it to the store or something like that.
You see the street. Well, right by, New Balance, right?
If there's other work and they can get other apparatus. He just.
That's had several marijuana businesses that got shut down. Just curious. Sure. It's very logical.
Is that your motion, Representative? Okay.
Yes. Yes. All in favor? Trying to think what we accepted. It is. You know, the motion for.
Make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss personnel matter for MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 4056A.
Second. All those in favor? Forget what you're doing.
You were the second?
At least two of you are paying attention.
Every night.
Very on.
Hold on, I've gotta.
I hope you got your money's worth, Lois, tonight for those tickets.
I turned the video off.
I took my ears out, so what did you say?